Hi, and welcome to the Bronco Exchange. I'm your host, Dr. Shanessa Fenner, and today is part 2 with Dr. James Anderson, the Chancellor of Fayetteville State University. Now, Dr. Anderson, let's talk about the Silent Sam controversy.
Well, that has been ongoing for the whole year at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And one way to look at all the things that have happened is this is a very teachable moment in history for the students at Chapel Hill and other students at UNC schools to look at exactly how this is going to play out. The external community is involved. You got your campus groups, faculty here, students here. You have the Board of Governors who oversee the UNC schools, who have their ideas about what should happen, etc. The biggest problem in this discussion, and Silent Sam represents a statue of a soldier, Confederate soldier, holding a gun. And a couple months ago, some protesters pulled the statue down. And that's where the controversy really began. Okay, so as long as they were protesting, and you know they have Second Amendment free speech rights, as long as they were protesting, First Amendment free speech rights, excuse me, it was okay. But when they pulled the statue down, all hell broke loose. And that's when people went to the ends of the continuums. They either were against putting it back up, or groups over here who said it must be put back up. Okay. The African American students and the African American faculty at Chapel Hill felt that this statue is a tribute to white supremacy and slavery. If you go back and look at the original documents that were read when the statue was first created and erected, it clearly says that this is a tribute to Confederacy, to slavery, to white supremacy, and in fact, even the person who was reading it said, and it allows me to beat my female slaves. Now, it wasn't until later on, after this, that it developed this kind of romantic notion of being a tribute to a young Confederate soldiers who had some affiliation with Chapel Hill. Okay, that happened afterwards. I don't take a position on it. First of all, it's not on my campus.
I know that's right.
But I can see why each camp wants to believe what they believe and support. But if you go by authenticity and you go by evidence, the evidence is in the words and the writings of the person and the groups that established the statue. And clearly, for them, it was a tribute to white supremacy, it was a tribute to slavery, etc. That doesn't mean you can't have statues, other statues, because every mother that sent a young son off to war during the Civil War, okay, that mother lived and died every day while that child was away. That was her child. And so mothers have a right, and we have a right to think about those young soldiers, whether it was Union or Confederate, and what they gave. Many of the soldiers had no idea of the politics of the Civil War. They just went because they were Southerners in Georgia, let's say. So I can see that people want to establish a statue to be a tribute to that. But on Chapel Hill's campus, and you know, I'm afraid that there's not going to be a good resolution to it. This morning, I was at the Board of Governors meeting in Chapel Hill, and later in the afternoon, in closed session, they discussed it. Well, when I got there at 8 o'clock, there were about 150 demonstrators outside. You know, they were chanting different things. Hey, hey, hi ho, the BOG's got to go. Not too creative, but that was their chant.
Okay.
And as the day went on, because it was so rainy and cold, they dwindled from about 150 to 25. The point, though, is that these groups that are on the ends of the continuums, I don't think they're going to find a compromise.
Okay.
And poor Carol Folt, the chancellor at Chapel Hill, is right in the middle of this. She's got to try to satisfy all these groups. The external community in Chapel Hill, the people that live in Chapel Hill say, we don't want the statue on the campus, just like the students say. Right now, some of the faculty and some of the graduate students are protesting decisions by the Board of Governors if they decide to either put it back in the same place or put it in another location. That Carol Folt has suggested we put it in another location on campus build a building around it, use it as a history teaching center of sorts. Well, to the protesters, they say that doesn't make sense. If it's a racist, supremacist, pro-slavery kind of monument, what does it matter if you just put it in another place? That's their argument. Okay. So I don't really see a middle ground here, and I don't think, and people are hunkering down. Some of the faculty and graduate students now are withholding student grades.
Oh.
Until this is resolved.
Ooh.
Yeah, the way they want, and they take the student position. So I worry about the teaching assistants doing that, because you could lose your job as a teaching assistant. But that's how serious this is to them. So it's a teachable moment for people from the outside, like me and you, and other people, and our students, to really watch what's going on, the dynamics of it, how people in power feel one way about it versus how students feel one way about it, how the campus community versus the external community feels about it. And Chapel Hill is seen as a pretty liberal, progressive campus. So you can probably figure there's going to be a lot more students who are against that kind of statue, of all races.
Yes, okay. It's so amazing, Chancellor, how people always, that no one wants to talk about race because it's such a touchy, situation. But see, once again, here's a situation that has something to do, basically, when you're talking about races and all,
It's about the history of the Civil
different
War
races
and race, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So once again, here we go again. Now, what's one of the most pressing issues you would say that may be going on here at FSU at this time?
Well, for any HBCU, the most pressing issue is money. Always having enough money to do the things you want to do, being able to project out far enough what your needs are. Let's take technology. Okay, technology is changing so fast, so rapidly. There's so much information out there that you have to look at different products and different ways of storing and then assimilating this information, putting it into curriculums, finding creative ways to give it back to students, such as 3D visual designs and this and that. So the days of a standard lecture are over.
Okay.
In fact, to give you a sense of how much information is available to us, I just heard this the other day. Every single day, we get an amount of information that is equivalent to all of the information from the beginning of civilization up to now. From the beginning of civilization, that's what we get every day. Okay, that's mind-boggling. It's also mind-boggling. How do you handle that? Okay, so we have to find ways to think about our investments better. Okay, whether it's in technology, whether it's in materials needed here in the studio, and if you don't think that way, far out, you're going to find that when you get to a point where you need things, you're just not going to have the monies. You have to develop new revenue streams on your campus because tuition doesn't pay for this. We have the lowest tuition almost in the country. So if we have the lowest tuition in the country in North Carolina, that's good for North Carolina residents, but I'm running a business, okay? And in running a business, you need to have some profits, you need to be able to have some extra revenue to do some of the things that you want to do. See, the larger universities like Chapel Hill, NC State, East Carolina, UNC Charlotte, they have the donors who will make up the difference.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. HBCUs, UNC Asheville, smaller schools, UNC Pembroke, we don't have those donors when we need them. Okay. So I think that that's always a very pressing problem. I'd say a second one is that if you look at the HBCUs that are moving ahead versus those that are staying static or falling behind, the ones that are moving ahead have changed their brand. Okay, doesn't mean they've changed their legacy. Okay, so here's the mantra I tell everybody to say. HBCU is a great institution that was founded in the African American tradition. Okay. However, we have to become a 21st century competitive institution. And you can combine those two. They're not at odds with one another. We hold on to our legacy on Founders Day, we celebrate our founders, all of those things. But we also have to realize that to keep the competitive edge, you have to really step up and know what's going on out there, be ready to make that change, to talk about yourself a different way, okay? And so, I go to conferences now that I never thought I would go to, okay? I'm invited to conferences of the National Science Foundation, Homeland Security, et cetera, because those are areas that we're investing in. The whole area of national security. Right now, there are about 80,000 jobs sitting empty in national security. That includes cyber, emergency management, all the areas.
Okay.
They project in 3 years there'll be 1 million jobs empty if we don't work to fill those. So one of the reasons we created a Center for Defense and Homeland Security, and we have degrees in intelligence studies, we give credentials to people, et cetera, is because we realize that market is there, and it will be there in the future. It's our responsibility as an institution to make sure we have that available to students. So the days of just having a traditional major and letting students go into a traditional major and maybe do an internship, et cetera, those days are over. You got to have that plus a whole lot more to be able to compete and develop the kind of career pathways for our students that they really need.
Okay. Tell me about this Faculty Wellness Center.
Oh, yeah. Okay, one of the things that bugged me, I've been here 10.5 years, and one of the things that bugged me was that our faculty, our staff, our students, they didn't have anywhere to work out. Okay, they could go over to the gym and run around the second floor of the gym, things like that. They had a little room downstairs with some weights and some machines that were old, but every university has a health and wellness center. And it's important because when you're recruiting students and their parents, you know, they make visits to other campuses and they say, whoa, look at this health and wellness center. Well, we didn't have one at all. So that was one of my goals, was to get one. And we got the legislature to give us $5.5 million. We're going to build it right adjacent to campus. Athletes can't use it.
Oh.
Okay? Athletes have to use their own weight rooms and everything else. So they can't use it. This is for the indigenous campus groups. Like I said, faculty, staff, students, anyone else who wants to do it.
Okay.
Probably 2 years from now, we will have built it. We're also talking to the city. The city has been talking about putting a senior center over in the same area, like almost right behind it. And in that way, the seniors can use the health and wellness center. The seniors can come up on campus for programs we have, concerts we have. They can take courses for free. I'd make sure that would be set up, that they could take courses for free. And we can send, for example, music students down there a couple times a month and perform for them. A lot of things that you could do versus a senior center where you have none of that going on. Okay, you're just sitting there watching TV at a senior center. So I'm excited about it.
Do you work out, Chancellor?
Yeah, you have to. You have to. I mean, I have all my life. I'm a practitioner of Tai Chi.
Oh.
I'm actually a master of Tai Chi.
Oh, I didn't
so
know
I've
that.
taught it. I've been involved in it maybe 35 years.
Okay.
And it really helped out when I went to China representing the university.
Okay.
Because the Chinese are really big into history and they're really big into things that they value. And so when I went over and they heard that I was a practitioner of Tai Chi, they didn't necessarily believe me.
Oh, okay.
So they took me to a little town called Tai Chi City. I mean, little town with a wooden board over the entrance to the city that said Tai Chi City. Wooden board, really.
Okay.
And so they had never seen black people before.
Oh.
So the people in the village were coming up and rubbing my hand and rubbing my face to see if the color would rub off, right?
And no, it doesn't come off.
Yeah. So they asked me to perform for them in the garden. And they had an 8th generation grandmaster come to watch me. So I got up out there and before I started, I prayed to the heavens, asked for strength from everybody, Martin Luther King, everybody, Jackie Robinson, everybody,
Okay.
And I performed, and you could see everybody turned and looked at the grandmaster. He smiled and did like that and said he's very good.
Okay.
Yeah. So after that, everything was set with FSU in China.
Okay.
We're their favorite now. I mean, our footprint in China is more secure and larger than any other UNC school, including NC State Chapel, all the big ones. So we have partnerships with 6 universities there. We're going to start a 7th one. We have student exchanges, faculty exchanges. Right now on our campus, we have an online course, okay, that involves our students and Chinese students, and it's in real time. So it has to be at 8 o'clock in the morning because that's 8 o'clock in the evening there. But I go sometimes just to sit in, I'm just fascinated that technologies, has evolved so we can have a real-time course between their students and our students.
Okay.
It's just fascinating.
All right. Well, Chancellor, that's our time. And once again, I thank you so much for the interview.
Appreciate it.
And thank you, viewing audience. I'm Dr. Shanessa Fenner, and this is the Bronco Exchange.
Hypnotized, familiar stranger, wait, hold up, don't run, I don't bite. Familiar stranger,